everything is okay with everybody. Um, I wanted to come on this morning really quick. It's Monday morning. You know, sometimes Monday is a rough start for some people. It is actually a rough start for me today, which is unusual. Um, because I'm normally good in the mornings, but this morning I don't know. I don't know if I'm coming down with something or what. But we will see as the day goes and progresses. But I wanted to come and talk to you guys because Hunter Biden did a interview with NPR, and I'm gonna listen to parts of his interview today. Today, while I'm working, I'm going to attempt to listen to the whole interview, because I did listen to portions of it, but I'm going to attempt to listen to all of the interview. But I'm also going to try to get caught up on all of the Celeste things that we need to get caught up on before the preliminary hearing tomorrow. I think it's the 21st tomorrow, that the preliminary hearing is scheduled for. So there's an interview with my boy Joe on body bags that I want to watch, and the title of that the title of that live is David Could Get Off Like OJ. So I think the title in and of itself is very controversial, because depending on where you stand on the OJ Simpson spectrum, whether you think he's guilty, whether you think he's innocent, whether you think maybe he's a little bit guilty and innocent, it's a mixed crowd. And so the title of Joe Schmo is Body Bags, is his channel, his YouTube channel, and his podcast. I'll post it up so you guys can see, but the title in and of itself is slightly controversial. But I think the question arises because of over the breach at the medical examiner's office that took place. I did post that, but we didn't talk about that. And so hopefully I have a pretty long day, probably to like about 7 or 8 today. But if I can, maybe we can go live and review that interview on body bags, so that we can get a professional interpretation of what took place with that data breach. So I want to try to see if we can do that. My plans, like I said, are to, while I'm working today, because I got a lot of quiet work to do. Most of my days I have quiet work to do, but sometimes I have meetings that I have to go to, but not today. I don't have any meetings this week until Wednesday. So while I'm working, I'm going to try to listen to the rest of the Hunter Biden interview on NPR, and then I'm going to listen to Joe with body bags. There was some Turkish drama, but because the David trial is tomorrow, I think it's of importance, if we're going to have conversation, for me to try to get as abreast with what's been going on with that since we left off from where we left off. So I'm going to try to get caught up with that. And I think that's all I should really put on the agenda today, because I think that's probably enough. I wanted to talk about one particular thing Hunter Biden spoke about on the interview that I did capture. So Hunter spoke about what was the main problem with the Joe Biden administration. And the criticism that Hunter Biden had to offer was that he felt like that the main issue that went wrong with the Biden administration was the appointment of Merrick Garland. Now, this is controversial for me, y'all, because I love Merrick Garland, okay? I was very upset when Merrick Garland was duped out of the Supreme Court seat because of what Senate Republicans and House of Representative members did to Obama to limit his power. And then they turned around, and when the same issue was presented with Donald Trump, they went with it. And that's the controversy behind the Democratic Party overall, is that people criticize the Democratic Party because they don't react like the Republicans. When they are in power, they do not exercise and assert their power the same way as the Republicans. And they feel like that they're showing the sign of them being, for lack of better words, pussy. Like they being pussy. Like, use the power the same way they use it. Abuse it. People want the Democrats to abuse the power. Right? That's what they really want them to do. Because they want them to be as aggressive as Senate Republicans and House of Representative Republicans, and they are abusing powers when they are what they are doing. That is not how the power should be disseminated. And so I'm not saying there's never a case where Democrats don't abuse powers, but when it came down to that whole fiasco, I think that is where we see the major distinction. I think when we look at the appointment of the fact that Merrick Garland was denied the appointment, but Amy Coney Barrett was given the appointment. I think that is the major difference between what the Democratic Party does when they're in power and what the Republican Party does when they are in power. And so, this is one of the major criticisms. But Hunter Biden says that he believes that one of the biggest problems with the Biden administration was the appointment of Merrick Garland as Attorney General. And I love Merrick Garland, and I felt like I said, he was duped out of his Supreme Court seat. That seat that Neil Gorsuch sits in belonged to Merrick Garland, and I will never think anything less, right? But I think I kind of have to agree with Hunter, you guys. I think I gotta kind of have to agree. Hold on one second, you guys. I gotta go do something really quick. I'm sorry, you guys. Listen, I had to run inside of the store really quick to grab some cranberry juice. But I wanted to talk about that interview with NPR that Hunter Biden did, where he spoke about he spoke about a lot of things, but one of the questions he was asked was, what is one of the main flaws he would point out about the Biden administration. And he said it was with the appointment of Merrick Garland. And what I was saying prior to me leaving out was that I tend to agree that was one of the mistakes. I don't know if I can go as far as to say the main mistake, but I think one of the mistakes. And so he talked about how the Biden administration and the Department of Justice, that Merrick Garland is like a constitutional, he's like a liberal federalist, kind of like so he has like some strict adherence to the Constitution. And as a result, once Joe Biden, Hunter demonstrates that, yes, Joe appointed Merrick Garland, and that was the reason why he says one of the main issues is of his father's administration. But once Merrick Garland became Attorney General, Merrick is very strict, and he believes in the separation. The Department of Justice is not to function and not to operate in a way that would be weaponized by the President of the United States. And so as a result, there was definitely a definite separation in the White House, in that Joe Biden's administration, and the Department of Justice. And so Hunter Biden goes to talk about that somewhat. But not that he is suggesting that it shouldn't have been that way. What he's saying is that if Merrick Garland had not been so concerned about what the response would have been, if he would have aggressively pursued investigations. Give me 1 second. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry. If he had not been so overly concerned with what with the appearance of what it would have looked like, if he would have conducted thorough investigations into the dealings of Donald Trump, into the what happened on the Capitol on January 6th with the insurrection, then he would have done things that would have potentially stopped and interfered with us having another Trump administration, with even it being a potential. That this is what Hunter suggests, right, in the interview. And I happen to agree. I understand why Merrick Garland and even Joe Biden, because I don't think that it was Merrick Garland in and of himself. I think one of the main reasons why Joe Biden picked Merrick Garland was because he knew that Merrick Garland would use that old school, old style decision making, and he would adhere to the strict scrutiny of the United States Constitution, and that he would not abuse the power, and that he would be as reluctant as he would be to pursue investigations on Trump. Because I think after what took place and what people saw happen on January the 6th, that some seasoned people over on the Hill know is that what we saw was a major threat to national security. The display that we saw on January the 6th with the insurrectionists is a huge threat to national security. And I think that a lot of those governing bodies and officials, what they attempted to do was to bring the temperature down. And I believe that Joe Biden appointed people based on that. I think he used temperament and his rationality to say, let's just bring the temperature down. We're not going to worry or try to put too much emphasis on what took place, because if we do, we could create a worse problem that will spiral out of control and could impact our elections, our power, our ability for years to come. And so as a result, I think that rational thinking, unfortunately now, and this is why I say I agree with Hunter, doesn't work. I think for those of us who are moderates, who are moderately conservative, who are centrists, anything that falls into that bracket, I think our way of thinking does not work anymore. It doesn't work. And so I think that Joe Biden made in a world where this all makes sense, I think he chose the right pick. He made the right decision by appointing Merrick Garland. But I really think that he needed somebody with the spirit of a Jasmine Crockett. And I'm not saying that Jasmine Crockett should have been Attorney General during the Biden administration. I'm saying that someone probably as seasoned in age and experience as Merrick Garland, but with the spirit of a Jasmine Crockett, to aggressively attack and go after to protect whatever is left of democracy. And I know that some people don't even believe in the idea of democracy, but I happen to think that there are some fundamentals that we have established here in the United States where we are a democratic republic, right? And I believe that what Joe Biden's decision making in that moment, what he attempted to do was to try to save that and say, you want to know what? Let's get past that. This man came in here, he did these things, let's move past it. I think what all and everybody underestimated was that this man would get back into office. They felt like, okay, America has had fatigue dealing with this man, this president. They will not bring him back. So maybe if we don't cause such a stir, if we don't put so much spotlight on it and emphasis, then we will just get past this. And I think that was the part of poor decision making. I think that is why it was a bad decision to appoint Merrick Garland, because he had the same thought pattern as Joe Biden, as to say, okay, let's not aggressively go after this thing. Let's just let this go away. And I don't think that was the proper approach. I think it was the correct approach. I don't think it was the proper approach for the time that we are currently in. I think we needed somebody way more aggressive that did not give a damn about what the allegations would be to do what needed to be done. And Merrick Garland was not that person, but neither was Joe Biden. Joe Biden appointed someone who is consistent with his morals and values on the situation, on the position. And in reality, that works. I mean, well, in a theory that works. But in the reality that we live in, that does not work. That doesn't work. And so I wanted to come to you guys this morning and just throw that little tidbit in. If you guys have an opportunity to go over, I'll post it on my community wall once I get to my office, but go over and look at the Hunter Biden interview and let me know in the comments what you guys gather from that interview. But that was one thing that I did want to come and speak about. I happen to agree with Hunter Biden. I am, like I always tell people, I am a centrist, but I believe that in order for the Democratic Party to move forward, in order for the Democratic Party to gain any kind of momentum, they need to switch up the strategy. And I don't think that the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers and, even kind of the Cory Bookers, I don't think that is what they need right now. They need something way more aggressive to swing that pendulum so far that they can try to bring it back to the middle. Good morning, Josephine Boone. And so I was talking about the Hunter Biden interview on NPR. So I'll post that. So like, go check that out. But I was just saying that he pointed out that one of the major things that he felt was wrong with the Biden administration was the appointment of Merrick Garland as Attorney General. And I was saying that I happen to kind of agree, because I think that it needed somebody way more aggressive to deal with all of the things that Donald Trump did without impunity. They wouldn't care. You said not too much on Nancy. Nancy is my boo too. I love Nancy, and I agree with everything Nancy. Well, not everything, but most of the things that she says in theory, I agree with it. What I don't agree, just like with Hillary, I love Hillary. That's my boo too, right? But for the times that we are in, I think their time has passed. I think in order for them to maintain and protect their record as moderates, as the moderates in the party, as progressives in the party, I think they have to step to the side and let some individuals who have a more extreme view try to see if they can straighten this out. This is not what is going on now, in my opinion, in this climate is not going to be corrected by centrist, moderate, or progressive thinking. It is going to take some radical thinking. That's my opinion. And I think that they need to step aside in order for them to be able to say, maintain their moderate views, in order for them to be able to maintain their records in that vein. I think they need to step aside and let some people more on the radical end of the party try to see if they can bring this pendulum a little bit more back to the center. Because I think if they swing far to the left, then somehow maybe that, I don't know what I don't know, y'all. I don't know what you said America does seem like exactly, Just V. And so I feel like the pendulum, in order to try to get some of this stuff back at least a little bit to the center, we need the pendulum to swing all the way to the left. And then maybe we can try to see if we can try to speak with the American people in a rational way, because at the end of the day, I keep saying it, the American people, they blame those people over on the Hill, but those people on the Hill are a small representation of the thoughts of the American people. And so what you criticize about those people on the Hill, it is the very criticism and the makeup of this American people. It is not just the people in Washington that are living in extremes. The American people are extreme. And so we need something to happen to where people can try to listen to the voices in the middle. And I don't know how to remedy that, but I feel like at this point it could end up where we just keep swinging the pendulum back and forth like a ping pong. But that seems like that's what's happening anyway. And so I think that when the Democrats are taking a less aggressive approach when it becomes their turn, that is turning people off. That's making people not turn out for elections. It's impacting who they vote for in elections. Even though they might not want to vote for the opposing side, they will go vote for the opposing side because they feel like at least with that side we know what we get. Like, it's so many different things that impact what is happening with these elections. But I feel like the Democrats need to allow the extreme end of the party take control. And so in order for them to be able to maintain their record, in order for them to be able to go meet their maker in peace, in some kind of peace, those moderate conservatives, the moderates, the progressives, the centrists in the Democratic Party need to step slightly to the side, and they need to let that more extreme faction take the reins and see if we can try to get some kind of balance. So Yes, I agree with Hunter Biden. I think as much as I love Merrick Garland, and like I said, will forever be disgusted about his Supreme Court seat being taken from him. And not that I dislike Neil Gorsuch. When Neil Gorsuch was confirmed, I agreed with that confirmation. Now, the other guy, Kavanaugh, not so much. I didn't agree with Amy Coney Barrett because the same situation that they took away from Obama, the Republicans gave it to Donald Trump in that situation. And so it was a clear contradiction. It did not take us decades to see them do the switcheroo. And so, but like I said, these are the things that make people upset with the Democratic Party. And if you want to see a clear distinction between what the Democrats do when they're in control and what the Republicans do when they are in control, then that's a clear indication. You look at what happened when President Obama should have had the right to appoint Merrick Garland, or have a confirmation hearing, and appoint Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court. And then what happened when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, and another president was elected, and the Republicans allowed Donald Trump to do what they would not allow Barack Obama to do. That is a clear distinction between the two parties. On that note, you guys, I have gotten here now, so I'm going to go into my office. I'll get those things posted. Yes, Just V, the interview was on NPR. I'll post it on my community wall so y'all can easily access it. But yes, there was an interview on NPR that Hunter did. And he talked about a lot of things, but that was one of the things he discussed. And I just wanted to come and talk to you guys about that this morning before I go into the office and get my day started. So you all have a great day. Just me, thank you for always indulging me with every conversation that I am bringing up out here into the airways. And I will talk to you guys soon.